When you have your girls, you're never alone. You get together for coffee, maybe to work out, or just to laugh. We created Hey Girl, just for you. Can't wait for you to join us.
Hey everybody, welcome to Hey Girl. I'm your girl, Kim with an E, and this is episode 89. Now, if you're joining us for the first time, I want to let you know that Hey Girl is a safe space where you can share your experience and be affirmed. Life can be complex and sometimes overwhelming. That's why we believe in the power of conversation, because knowing you're not alone is what will help you get through. Well, come on in, say hello in the comments, and let me know that you are here. Welcome to another episode. I hope that you've had a good week. It is the first full week of the new year. How has it been? How have you come into this new year? Come on in and let me know. Say hello in the comments. Hit the like button, follow and share today's live, and tell me how it has been thus far. The first full week of the new year. We made it through. How are you feeling? Are you hopeful? Are you excited? Are you worried? Are you fearful? Are you feeling overwhelmed already? I know it's only been the first week, but there's just been a lot going on. Actually, there's been a lot going on the last couple of weeks, right? We're in the middle of this pandemic that just will not end. We have the new Omicron variant. It's just been crazy. How many of you have been impacted by COVID? Whether end of last year or coming into the new year, I know a lot of people have been impacted. We were getting together for the holidays with our friends and loved ones, and now we're coming back from vacation and maybe coming back with a little more than we bargained for, right? Hi, Donna McClendon. Welcome. So glad you're here. Happy New Year. So I feel like I've seen more and more people close to me even who have been impacted by the virus. And for a long time it was this distant thing. It wasn't affecting us here in the States, and then oh well, it's not affecting us here in the South, and oh well, it's not affecting us here in Madison County, and then all of a sudden it's everywhere. And now especially it's just been a mess. And I know that aside from the physical burden of the virus and of COVID, there's also that emotional impact that it has, right? You're always in a little bit of fear, particularly when you go out or around people. There's that anxiety about whether to do the vaccine or whether not to, and whether to get the booster shot or not, and da 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 da. I think it's very easy for us to get overwhelmed. Hey, Marissa, welcome. Happy New Year. So if you're feeling overwhelmed this already in this first week of the new year, say yes in the comments. If you're overwhelmed, if it's already a lot, let's just face facts, be honest, say yes in the comments. But I think what can help all of us, and truly what has been helping me, because there are times when I do feel overwhelmed. I the other day was just thinking, maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to just stay home, like for the rest of the semester. Like let's just not even bother with going out. Hey Ashley, yes, she says, feeling that overwhelm. But what has helped me, not just in this new year, but just really in the last few months, what has really been helpful for me to get in a better headspace is getting into journaling and yoga. Yoga is not something that I ever thought I would be into. I mean, it was just way too slow. I just didn't have time to slow down, be breathing and, stretching and stuff like that. When you're going to get a workout in, you want to sweat, hit it hard, and then, go on with life. But I guess I'm getting a little older and I'm feeling a little tense and a little stiff. And I'm realizing that as much as my physical body needs to be in good shape, my mental health is really important too. And I think all of us have become really aware of our mental well-being during this season, right? And that's what's brought me to yoga. And I'm an advocate. Like I don't do it every day, but I definitely encourage you to make it a part of your regular practice, particularly to relieve stress and to get flexible. Of course, you can go to YouTube. One of my favorites is Yoga with Adrienne. She's just really calming, very effective in her direction, and you may want to check that out because it's a really great resource, and she has a lot of exercises that are good for restorative health, right? So if you have a headache, that's actually one of the reasons that I started watching her, I have headaches a lot, and she has a healing yoga practice for headaches and migraines. And I must say, it has helped. Now, it's not a cure-all. I still have headaches, but there have been several headaches that have been warded off by just going through one of those stretching, breathing exercises that she led. So definitely check it out if you're feeling overwhelmed. If you feel like, you may need a change of pace or something to kind of get you into a good place, I definitely recommend it. And I must say that one of the most difficult things for me has been that slowing down, that slowing down. We don't have time. My favorite line is, ain't nobody got time for that, right? My kids are always rolling their eyes because I'm like, oh, ain't nobody got time for that. But I'm realizing that we have to start making time. We just have to stop and breathe and focus and get in a good place. Hi, Julia. Welcome. So glad you're here. Hit that like button, share today's live, and let's get into a good headspace this year. So one person who has also helped me with this was a guest on our show not too long ago. Her name is Melissa Reed. And I don't know how many of you remember her. This was maybe about a year ago, a little over a year ago, I think now. And she is a spiritual director, and she does this whole journaling and yoga practice. And she really, some people, especially Christians, are a little suspicious of yoga. They're like, oh, that's Far Eastern stuff. But there is a way to do this practice that is not bringing in any of the new age ideology, right? Welcome, Jackie, and Takoa. Did I say that right? I hope I'm saying your name right. Welcome, welcome. So glad you're here. But Melissa Reed is a Christian, and she does she leads these practices of journaling and yoga. She calls it's a membership that you join and you get the benefit of, but she calls it Atelier Grace. And it's just beautiful. She's so calming and so just a beautiful person inside and out. Like I said, I had her on the show about a year or so ago. You go back to our Facebook page and search those past episodes to find the episode with Melissa Reed, where she talks about what she does and talks about what Atelier Grace is. But she has really been a blessing in my life as someone who has shown me the benefits of slowing down, of living a graceful life, of taking the time to just breathe. Just breathe. You'd be amazed at the restorative benefits of breathing, like really conscious, intentional thinking about what our body needs and our mind needs in a given moment. So again, how are you guys coming into this new year? Tell me in the comments. Say if you're feeling excited, hopeful, worried, overwhelmed. Tell me what you're feeling, and definitely check out these resources that have benefited me and I think may benefit you as well, regardless of what you're dealing with. One other past guest that I want to mention, kind of going along with this whole thing, it was Dr. Lakeisha. If you remember, she came on maybe in the fall, I believe it was, of last year. I think it was episode 49. Oh, Jackie, you're feeling hopeful. Awesome. Dr. Lakeisha came on. It was episode 49, and we were talking about our bodies. We were talking about, has your body betrayed you? And she was such a fantastic guest, so lively and so knowledgeable. But even though she's a medical doctor, she also walked us through, or sat us through because we were sitting, the whole nose breathing thing. Do you all remember that? It's so relaxing, like literally just breathing. And she showed us how to do it. You breathe in one nostril and out the other, exhale out the other one. And it just is amazing how calming something so simple can be. And it's just a matter of getting quiet, getting still, taking a moment to just inhale, and then holding it and exhale. It's been so helpful. And those of you who suffer from headaches, I might say also, it actually is very helpful for relieving that tension and relieving the headaches as well. So take a look back at that episode as Ms. Lakeisha was walking us through that, and listen to some of the other points that she made about our bodies and getting healthy all the way around, because that's definitely something we need to continue to do. All right, I see the comments coming in. Donna says, feeling hopeful and ready to take on a new chapter in this year. Awesome. Labriska, hey, feeling determined. Yes, me too. Ashley, I'm excited about the new year and the opportunities it will bring walking into 2022 with a little more hope. Oh, good, guys. Motivated for more, says Omekia Smith. I hope I'm saying your name right. I apologize. Oh, good. Well, everybody is feeling good today. No overwhelm, huh? Perfect. So we're in a good place. That means we are ready to tackle the year, tackle the day, tackle the week. Of course, we got to take it one day at a time. So real quick, want to remind you to sign up for the Just Kim newsletter. Click the link that we put in the comments there and receive our free downloads. Of course, the January calendar is out now. You need to get that and put that on your desktop because, of course, we want to just have that scripture in our face to remind us that God is doing a new thing and He has something really special in store for us. So we just have to claim that promise each and every day. And then, of course, I was so excited to be able to announce last week that my new book is forthcoming. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that it will be out by the end of this month, certainly in the next few weeks. And so if you want to get your hands on this, it is really appropriate to this theme for today as we're talking about, or this month really, as we're talking about writing the vision, because this book is all about incorporating writing into our daily practice in order to delve deeper into what it is that God has for us. So for a limited time, you'll be able to get the book for free if you click that link and put in your request. Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Omikia. Please tell me if I'm pronouncing it wrong. I apologize. But thank you guys for your kind words. Absolutely. Click that link. Let me know if you want to be put on the list to get your free copy for a limited time. And I will definitely keep you posted on when the release date will be set. All right. So, of course, as I said, this theme for this month is Write the Vision. Hey, Audrey, I see you out there. Welcome. And so what are we talking about when we say write the vision? We're talking about the literal writing and also the figurative idea of writing. And my guest today is the perfect person to talk about both of these things. Um, she Oh, okay. Here we go. I would love the book. And yes, you are saying it right. Oh, thank you. Omikia. Yes. Yay. I'm so glad that I did it right. Welcome and thank you for being here. I'm excited to have you all and excited for you all to meet my guest for today. She is a self-proclaimed ambassador for authenticity who is fluent in the language of empathy. Can't you tell that she's a writer? I love it. Toyah Burton is a seasoned writer, passionate speaker, workshop facilitator, and support group leader who offers godly comfort, gospel-centered wisdom, and an open heart. Through sharing her thoughts, creativity, and coaching, Toya helps individuals connect to what matters most. Of all her titles and roles, though, her favorite is wife of over 2 decades and mom of 6. That is her favorite role, she says, and I can understand why. I'm so thrilled to introduce you all and to welcome to the show Toya Poplar. Welcome.
Thank you.
I just realized I called you by your maiden name earlier. I said Toya Burton. I guess you're still that too, right?
I am very much happy to honor my father today. So thank you for that.
Well, welcome, and your husband. She's Toya Poplar
Yes.
today. So and a husband of over. He's been your husband for 2 decades. That's fantastic. That's
Yes. 22 years.
a huge accomplishment in this day and in this culture. Beautiful family.
Thank you. You
Yes.
happen
So
to
you must
know
be.
one of my little ones.
I do. And I forgot to mention that also. So I'm glad you reminded me. Yes, we mentioned a couple months ago that this beautiful young lady who was a student at A&M, is a student at A&M, had written a book, a children's book. I know we don't have that graphic, Amanda, don't worry about it, but her name is Trinity, and she wrote a children's book, and she did her book signing in the Writing Center. at A&M University, and it was so special, and we certainly had a good time meeting people who came for the signing and hearing her read from the book. So proud of the accomplishment that she has made, which means clearly this writing and creativity gift runs in the family.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for celebrating Trinity's gift the way that you have over the years. We greatly
Oh
appreciate it.
yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I am all for it. I see a lot of comments coming in. I think you have a lot of fans that have joined us and are saying hello and singing your praises. So I
Hello,
don't know if you can see all those
family.
comments.
I can. It's such a blessing. I see Omikia is actually a childhood friend. So it is such a
Awesome.
joy to have my sisters celebrating and supporting this broadcast today. So thank y'all for joining us.
Indeed, indeed. So speaking of childhood, why don't you give us a little bit of your background, where you're from originally, and do you have siblings? Just give us a little sense of who you are.
Alrighty, thank you. So I am from a small town, Muskegon, Michigan. And if you know of any native Michiganders, you know that we have a built-in map. So this is where I'm
Mhm.
from. And I
Okay.
grew up on Lake Michigan, and
Okay.
it was a place that when I was little, I couldn't wait to leave. And yet now as an adult, it's all I do. All I do is fantasize about being there. It feels so utopic to be from such a special place. So I
Oh
do
yeah.
have siblings. I have three brothers and one sister. And I happen to have the exact same birth order as my husband. My husband and I grew up with the exact same amount of siblings with the
Hmm.
exact same birth order. And it was kind of in the inverse. So I think that's why we're so compatible. He has two older
Mm,
sisters, where I have two older brothers. He has a
mhm.
younger brother. I have a younger sister. And then our youngest sibling, he has his youngest sister, and then I have my baby brother. So it's really neat, and we're
Okay.
all about the same age as well.
Oh wow. Now, did you
Yeah,
all meet when you were young growing up, or did you meet later in life?
we did. We actually met. I was 16, he was 17. We were in high school, and we've been together ever since.
Wow. That's interesting. When I hear stories like that, I tell my girls all the time, I'm like, don't shrug off the kids in your class or the people you know, because you never know what the
You
future
never
may
know.
hold. You may have already met your your husband to be.
It's so true. It seems like it's a rarity, but I know quite a few high school sweethearts.
Yeah. I do too, actually. So it could happen. It could happen.
Yeah.
Ebony is saying exactly. I know she knows about that. Yeah, it could definitely happen. So, and I'm all for it because I know these people's parents. So like I'm good
Mhm.
with her knowing who her future husband's going to be right now because I also know who they are.
Absolutely.
She
That's a
could go
big
out
deal.
there. Yeah, she could go out there and find some weirdo and we would not see it coming and that wouldn't be good. So I'm not ready for them to grow up yet, but if they have to, that's the way to do it. So you have a house full of babies yourself. They're not babies, of course, not all of
Yes.
them, but you have
Hey,
a
but
house
they'll
of
always
six.
be my babies. You're right. You
I
said
know,
that
I
aptly.
know.
Yes.
Yep, I say that all the time too. There's no matter how old they get, they're always your baby. So yeah, and you have, of course, Trinity, who's in college, and then you have she has older siblings too, right? She's not the oldest.
So, yes, I have my oldest who just graduated from UAH last December. And
Hmm.
then my youngest daughter is actually a freshman at A&M this year. So I got two bulldogs and one charger. And my younger three are 11, 12, and 13.
Wow, awesome. You got your hands full. Keep you busy, I'm sure. But I know that's not all you do. I know that you're busy with other things also. So tell us, what are some of those other things? Well, first of all, let me ask you this, because I said,
Okay.
our theme is write the vision. And
hmm
I'm curious to know, when you hear that phrase, what does that mean to you?
That means so much to me personally because historically, the things that I have written have come to fruition. And
Mm.
I developed my love affair with words at a very young age. Both my parents happened to be writers, and so I grew up with really great literature on the shelves. I was an avid journaler from a very young age. And so when
Mm.
I think of the term write the vision, I think of every journal where I spent time forecasting my year, and
Mm-hmm.
every aha moment where I flip back and see that those things came to pass. And
Yeah.
so this isn't something like before anyone could demonize the term like manifestation, or like this is something that's happened to me throughout my life. So no one can take it away from me, no matter if they want to say that's new age, or that's, they can't,
Mm-hmm.
because I've seen what God has done in my life as a result. So I will
Mm-hmm.
start at a senior scrapbook. You remember those Jostin senior scrapbooks where you kind of
Yes.
foreshadow?
Yes.
So
Yes.
everything that I wrote, like my 10-year plan, my it's my life. I narrated my
Wow.
life. And so, most recently, a girlfriend of mine gave me a book called Five, and it poses the question, where will you be 5 years from now? And I just have to show you this really quick. This is
Um,
so this,
ah.
I doodled a picture of a little house, and I wrote Airbnb on it. And I drew an RV, and I drew my book, wifey and hubby. All these things have came to pass in my life. And this is
Wow.
where will you be 5 years from now? But I received this book less than 5 years ago. So it's so fascinating. I'll never grow tired of seeing the things that I've written come to pass.
So do you think that, so is this something that you premeditated? Like, I'm going to write this down so that it will come to pass, or did you just, like to write, and so you wrote, and then it just happened to come to pass? Like,
So I've
which
had both happen. I am a
uh-huh.
big vision board. Like I love doing dream boards, and
Mm-hmm.
every year my dream boards come to pass. Like I will forget. Like I'll be working on crafting language for something, and then I'll go back by my dream board, and the language will already be on the board. Maybe it's in
Wow.
stickers or in doodles or colors. But with
Yeah.
this book asks you, where will you be 5 years from now? And one of my desires is to be an Airbnb superhost. And so I wrote it in there, and I forgot that I drew the picture. But my husband and I just recently purchased a bungalow in my hometown, and it looks like the picture, which is almost
Wow.
scary.
Yeah.
So yeah. So
Yeah.
I love to pull out books like that. Whenever I'm on a flight, I will grab a book like that, and I'll just kind of, foreshadow the future. And when I
Yeah.
look back, it usually has come so
Um,
close that it's fun. It's a gift.
yeah.
And so whenever someone tries to, say something against writing stuff down, I'm like, why would
Hmm.
you deprive yourself? Like it's not rocket science, it's neuroscience, you know?
Yes,
It's
exactly.
just
I was going to say
basic
that.
math.
Exactly. I was going to
Yeah.
say that what you're proving is the connection that I actually talk about in my book, between writing and thinking. And
Hmm.
what the writing does is make what's in your mind visible, and
Yeah.
something that you can observe. And when you do that, it's like confirming and reinforcing what you then can do and will do and more likely will do because it's in front of you, right? So
Yes.
I promise you, every successful person that I have heard interviews of, or who I've read things that they've written, they almost all, I can't think of any that haven't said that they in some way or another incorporate writing,
Yeah.
journaling, some kind of written word that guides the actions and steps that they take thereafter. So some people are like, oh, I don't like to write. I don't, I'm not a writer, but you don't have to be a writer to use writing to your benefit. And I think that's
Yes.
really important to understand.
It's so true. It's so true. And I mean, the fact that you have actual statistics and science that state when you write something down, you're more apt to see it come to pass. Why
Yep.
wouldn't you write it? Why
Right.
would you reduce writing to something that is like, I just don't get it. of course, we're writers, so it's
Yeah.
exciting to us. But
Yeah.
it's such a simple practice. I just look at it how God uses foolish things to confound the wise, because it's such a foolish, simple thing, but it's
Right.
really profound.
It is. It really is. And so tell us a little bit about some of the things that you have written as far as your vision that have come to pass, and then also the things that you have literally written.
Okay, I will. Thank you so much for that invitation. So, in the past, at our previous, my so I'll give you a bit of context. Our older three children are biological, and we adopted our younger three. So we adopted our younger three when they were ages 1, 2, and 3, and our family size doubled overnight. So our square footage shrank radically. So
Mm-hmm.
we were in a position to where we were long overdue for a new house, and we loved our home, but
Hmm.
the neighborhood just declined really rapidly, really fast. And it was such a source of stress that I was just like, God, you gotta do something. And so I wrote it down. And I wrote down that I wanted a privacy fence, that I wanted a cul-de-sac. Like I just wrote down
Hmm.
the things that I desired. And every day I get to dwell in the home that I visualized back then.
Mm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's one example of how I saw just writing your heart come to pass. And in
Yeah.
terms of writing, um, going through the stress of adoption, there were times where I was like, Lord, I know I'm so much more than just a diaper changer or a, you know, just I needed to know that the gifts that God placed inside of me were still there. And so I
Yeah.
went away to a lake house. I used to host silent writing retreats monthly at a lake house in Gunnersville. I went away to that lake house and I spent a week, and I just wrote the complete overflow of my heart. And at the end
Mm-hmm.
of that week, I had more than half of my book stop right there written. And it
Oh, wow.
was my attempt to write my way to the light. I was in such a dark place. It was such a heavy,
Mm-hmm.
heavy time that I turned to that which has always been my source of self nurturing or self care, and that was writing. So it's amazing
Mm-hmm.
how God can use something to,
Mm-hmm.
the greatest like darkness in our life to be a light in the lives of others. And so
Mm-hmm.
that book was an accidental bestseller. It held the best selling spot on Amazon for the first 3 months that it was out. And I was just a mama who was trying to write my way, trying to help my breakdowns become somebody else's breakthrough.
Yeah. So what are you doing? I have the book and it is very inspirational. What are you doing in that book? What is it? Who are you talking to? And what are you trying to say to your reader?
So that book is me giving people permission to start and the courage to finish their creative ideas. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have the term creative in my vocabulary at the time that I wrote it, but I wrote it to creatives. I wrote it to
Mm-hmm.
creative Christians in particular who sometimes could not find an outlet for their creativity within the church without it being questioned. And so I just
Mm-hmm.
decided to give people permission to cultivate that which was in their heart, and ultimately encouraging them to create from a pure place. I think sometimes comparison can
Mm-hmm.
contaminate our creativity. And so my
Mm-hmm.
deepest desire was that people would be a clean stream for the Father to flow through. And the way that you do that is by, you know, doing the work that it takes to heal, so that
Mm-hmm.
when you do show up in the world, you're not one more person that's bleeding while leading, but you can create from a pure place.
Mm. Donna McClendon says, I love that book. And Labriska says, that's what I would love, a few days away from everything to write and pour out my heart. I know.
Yes,
What a blessing to be able to have a lake house to retreat to. I'm looking for that too.
yes. Such a blessing. And I offer, that was a service that I offered for free for every
Mm.
month, where we would write in silence for the
You
first.
have that already?
I'm sorry.
Sorry. No,
Oh
you're
no,
fine.
that's okay.
I hit the wrong button. You said you
Oh,
used to
okay.
offer.
Yeah, that prior to COVID, that was my desire to give the world what I was in need of. And we would write in silence. Actually, we have Jackie Smith, who has been to some of my silent writing retreats. We have a few of my writers who are on here. And
Mhm.
that was just I think that's what we do as creatives. We give the world what we're in need of, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. So you're gonna start that back up when this whole COVID thing settles down, right?
I would hope to be able to offer that again someday. And
That sounds
actually,
amazing.
I think that every time when it was time to end, nobody wanted to leave. So my
Mhm.
desire will be to do so in a weekend form. And I've done it. I would do them once a year where it was for the entire weekend. And honestly, you'd
Mhm.
be surprised. Sometimes people are very uncomfortable with silence. They say they need
Mhm.
time to get away and write, but sometimes people aren't comfortable with
Yeah.
silence. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, but it's needed.
Yeah.
It's needed. When you're quiet, you can kind of process things that you may skip over if you're, talking and moving and listening. And yeah, so I've heard of people who have done those retreats for longer than a weekend. Like one of our guests was on and she said, how long did she go? It was a long, long time. And it was one of those retreats out in the desert or something, and no
Mhm.
one was allowed to talk for, I don't know, however. And she was like, so many people dropped out before the thing was done. I want to say it was like a month. Maybe it wasn't that long, but
Yeah.
she said
I
people would
understand.
like, yeah, they were like, nah, I gotta get out of
Yeah.
here.
I've had
Yeah.
people register for my silent writing retreats and they'll be like, "So how silent we gotta be?" And I'm like, "It hasn't started yet and you've already broke your silence." I actually, because I'm a bit of a silence junkie, I go away to Coleman to the monastery and I observe silence on my own. I'm not Catholic, but they reserve their grounds for people to come and just get away and rest. And so that's one of my things that I do, especially if I'm working on a client's work. I do Holy Ghost writing. And so when I'm ghost writing for a client, I will go away and I will just write so that I don't have any background noise or distractions as I
Mhm.
channel, as I write in someone else's voice, right?
Yes, yes. We have to be
Yeah.
careful of that language, right? But I know what you meant.
Yes.
I,
Yes.
I know, I know, I know.
Yes.
Well, that's cool. So what all, you've mentioned several things that
Okay.
you do. So let's talk about what you do.
Okay. So I am one who has embraced the slash life. I'm an author slash speaker slash certified Enneagram coach slash support group leader. And those are the things that I do. I offer relational coaching. And I absolutely love teaching people the language of empathy. And so I have a
Mhm.
support group that I started in the heart of the pandemic called Notice and Nurture. And I teach people how to both notice and nurture their neighbor. And
Hmm.
it is um, the removal of aloneness. The first thing God said
Mhm.
is not good is that man should be alone. And so I know that I can't take away someone's pain, but I can remove their aloneness in their pain. And so that
Mhm.
is what I do through the language of empathy. And I absolutely love it. So I also help encourage wives to connect with their husbands emotionally, spiritually, financially, and physically through teaching my wifey workshops. And then
Mhm.
I recently became a certified Enneagram coach, which is so much fun. I help take people from self limiting behaviors to experiencing true liberation through just understanding their unique personality type and their divine design. So, I don't know if you're familiar with the Enneagram, but it's a
Yeah.
personality typology system. So, it's wonderful to show people where they go when they're in their growth path versus where they go in their path of stress. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, those are some of the services that I provide.
Awesome. So yeah, we're showing the website and some of the things that people can find, and it's toyapoplar.com. Is that right?
Yep, ToyaPoplar.com, you can see my creative entrepreneur coaching. So if you have someone who knows there's a book inside of them, but they don't know where to begin,
Mm-hmm.
or they just don't have the confidence in their writing ability, I ask
Mm-hmm.
questions to help probe their heart so that I can help them write and show up confidently in the power of their voice. So I call myself a literary midwife because I feel like I'm helping people give birth to their book babies.
That's great. That's great. That is a very appropriate metaphor because it does feel like you've given birth when you've spent so
Yes.
much time with something that literally comes out of you, that comes out of your, the deepest parts of yourself. So as a writer, I can definitely identify with that metaphor.
Yeah.
So as we think about the difficulties with writing your vision, can you talk about some difficulties that you have had personally, as you know, you've done a lot of amazing things and you've talked about how you've written things down and they've come to pass. But I want to make sure we don't make that seem real smooth and easy and it always comes out perfectly, right? So what are
Yeah.
some of the difficulties that you've had with first writing that vision and it coming to pass, and how did you handle that? And then I have a part two to that question, but let's start with that.
Okay. Sometimes, excuse me, sometimes our visions can be so lofty that they can intimidate us. So, um, I think that it's important to not allow yourself to become afraid to dream.
Yeah.
I joke and say that I'm a professional procrastinator. And what I've learned is that although outwardly it may seem like I'm not, like if I have a deadline, it may seem like I'm not working on it. Really, internally, I'm doing a lot of mental processing. And so usually I wind the clock so long that by the time I show up on the paper, I have no time to waste. So I gain this
Mhm.
laser beam focus and I'm able to just get it out. And so I
Mhm.
want to help normalize people who procrastinate to where that doesn't, I feel like I have reframed that to where it's not a negative connotation to me. It doesn't matter how many times I've been lectured or berated about how horrible procrastination is. I've made it work for me and I've somehow been able to craft this extraordinary life. So I look at it like one of those things that can be negative, but if you don't allow it to paralyze you, it can just be a part of your creative process.
Hmm. You may have just helped some people right there. So if you consider yourself to be a procrastinator, which I do in some ways see myself procrastinating, but the negative kind, right? So then the question is, okay, if you're one who does the negative procrastination, you keep putting something off. Typically for me, it's something that I don't want to do, or I dread, or I feel incapable of doing, or in some way I'm letting the doubt, kind of push me away from getting it done. So if you can channel that urge to procrastinate for negative reasons into some a positive, sort of make it work for you, then yeah, let's talk about how you can do that. Like, how do you take that?
Yeah.
Because, like I said, the reasons that I procrastinate are not positive. So then, what do I do with that to make it work for me?
Okay, so here's my example. If I have been commissioned to write a self-care article, I will just immerse myself in self care methods. So if I'm doing yoga, if I'm chilling in the sauna, it looks like, girl, you got a deadline, you need to be writing. But I'm like, no, I'm doing a case study right now. This is
Okay.
research. And so it all kind of converts into the article. But
Okay.
in the moment, it looks like I'm just so irresponsible. But if I
Got
can
you.
take away that stigma, then I
Yeah,
don't beat myself up.
that's
I
good.
can just know that this is all a part of my creative process. And also, I hear a lot of writers state that they have writer's block. But what I've found is that after periods of producing high volume of work, I'll feel stuck, but really I just need to restock the pond. So
Yeah.
there's a brilliant book by Julia Cameron called The Artist Way. and she talks about restocking the pond. So I
Yeah.
remember one time giving myself permission to stop trying to force myself to write, and I just went and watched Beyonce's Homecoming documentary. And I
Mm.
don't want the Beyonce fans to come for me. Like, I wasn't a Beyonce fan. I just was like, huh, this is trending #1 on Netflix right now. So I watched
Mm.
it, and it was the greatest incentive and motivation for me to write. Because if I could
Mm.
witness this woman literally dance away the her body fat from having twins, like, she was
Yeah.
it was like, you can write, girl. You can get up and you can write at 5 a.m. every day. So it was so inspiring. What I love is that creativity breeds creativity. So it doesn't
Yeah.
matter if I'm watching Food Network or Beyonce dance her tail off and choreograph meticulously. It
Yeah.
inspires me to show up on the page and be the best writer I can be.
Yeah. You are absolutely right. I definitely can underscore what you've just said. The writing process is more than just the act of writing itself. And so what you're
Yeah,
talking about is that pre-writing stage, which we all have to go through where, and I think that the key is, and I think this ties too into the writing the vision, the key is to be intentional in everything that you do. So when you
yeah,
write your vision, whatever it is you want for your future, you're intentional in doing that. You're taking the time to think through, what do I want? And then by doing that, you are reminding yourself every day, because you're looking at it, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And in writing itself, you are intentional when, even when you're not writing, because if you know that this is the thing that you need to work on and you're doing these other things, you're still in some way or another thinking about that thing that you need to write. And I tend to be one who sees inspiration everywhere. And
yes,
and so you can be watching a documentary, or I was watching a Disney movie with my girls, and I was like, oh, I got to get my notes because this is great. I referenced one of the Disney movie in the book, and I use it as an analogy. I was able to use a Disney story as an analogy for something else. And so if you're really intentional about whatever you're doing, and so I'm going to say what you just said, even if it looks like procrastination,
yeah.
if you're doing it with intention, then it can actually benefit. And so it's really changing that mindset. And like you said, if you're intentional about what you're doing, then you won't beat yourself up, and maybe that will also give you permission to keep going or to move forward in whatever it is. Because one thing that I have been guilty of too is like, oh well, I didn't do it, I'm not doing it, I might as well not even try anymore. So it's that defeatist
Mhm.
attitude. So you can replace that with, no, 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 I'm not doing it, but what I am doing is serving a purpose. Reframing is really important, I guess, to
Yes.
getting out of that rut. Yeah.
And as a writer, you have the ability to do that. Like, that's what's so
Yeah.
awesome. The reason that Disney movie resonated with you is because somebody sat down and they cultivated their writing gift. Like, words make the
Yeah.
world go round. So if you like a good
Yeah.
movie, if you like a good commercial, if you like a good song, it's all a result of someone being still and writing that vision. And if we don't write our vision, we're going to be writing our woes. Like, if there is a book inside of you, it's going to seep out of you in the form of really creative text messages or really
Mhm.
engaging emails. So we are writers, whether we call ourselves writers or not. We're writing
Yep.
all the time. We might as well
Very
sharpen the saw so that it's good quality writing, right?
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely, I agree. And I must say that I love all the little writing that I've seen of yours in the blog posts and Facebook posts. It's very clear your creative gift, just in the simple language and the simple little blurbs that you put out there. So just want to affirm you in
Yeah.
that.
Thank you. You know, it's funny that simplicity is such a complex art. You know that. You know that
Yeah.
from your profession. And so
Mhm.
making it look easy is really hard. And I think that's why so many of us stop short of putting out content, is because we overthink it. And so lately I've
Yeah.
been like, give me the raw, give me the authentic. It's those wonky moments or those quirky moments that is the writing that most resonates with us. So that's
Yeah.
my goal for this year in terms of writing the vision. My phrase is to stop holding back, because I keep all that stuff stored in my head. Like there's this
Mhm.
ongoing sitcom in my head. I'm like, just share that with the world. And it's amazing how that stuff is the stuff that really resonates.
Yes, yes, of course, of course. Everybody, and I like what you said about being alone. You know, nobody wants to be alone. I think that's so important. And when you are willing to be vulnerable and show, you know, that you're not always perfect or don't always have it together, that lets people know that they're not alone in not having it together and not always being perfect. And that's why it resonates, because, you
Yeah.
know, no one wants to feel like they're the only one who's going through something and everyone else has it all together perfectly. And that's one thing that I say over and over on this show. That's why we're here, to talk
Yeah.
about what our different experiences are, to affirm one another in what we're each doing well, but also to say, yeah, me too, when we, you know, admit to things that are not always going well. So, um, what advice would you give to those who, like you said, have a book in them? Maybe this is the year that they need to start writing that book, and they are fearful of doing so or don't know where to start. What advice can you give to those who are interested in being writers?
My advice to those who are interested in being writers is that life is short.
Mm,
Writing gives you the ability to leave a legacy in the earth to where someday
mhm,
your grandchildren can hear your voice in your own words.
mm,
And I think that most wordsmiths have a desire to live a life of significance. And there's no greater way for you to do that than to show up in the power of your voice. Um,
mm,
it's liberating to write. Your pen is the only tool that gives you the ability to prophesy your own fate. Um,
mm,
there was a writing exercise I did one time titled The Apology I Never Received. And
mm.
what I gained from that exercise was that nobody knew what words I needed to hear in order to heal like I knew.
Mm,
And
mm,
so I was able to just behold the power of the pen, that I could show up on paper and I could write specifically the words that I needed to hear. In the absence of that individual ever saying, I'm sorry, I was able to receive healing and forgive them. And so that was 2 years prior to me finishing the poem, which the latter half of the poem was titled The Forgiveness I Never Gave.
mm,
And so just to see a full circle moment like that, if it were not for the power of me being able to pour my heart out onto paper and reflect on just how bad it hurt, but also what words I needed to heal, and then to be able to go a step further and offer forgiveness, I just thought, who
mm,
wouldn't want to have a therapeutic
mm.
process like this? And so I
Yeah.
hope that incentivizes someone to write. But God breathed life into you so that you can breathe life into someone else. So stop holding your breath.
Mm. Yeah, that's so good. And I think what's most important in what you just said is that what may be holding someone back from writing that book is that it sounds so overwhelming to write a book, right? Oh, I'm gonna sit down and
Yeah,
write this book. And there's so much pressure. You tell someone you're writing a book, they're like, oh, when's your book coming out? There's all this expectation, right? And
yeah,
that can be kind of paralyzing, right? But if you just sit down to write, don't worry about what it's gonna be. Just do what you can do today, and then tomorrow do what you can do tomorrow, and the next day the next. Then one day you may look up and have a book. But if
yeah,
you don't hinder yourself because you're like, oh my gosh, I gotta write this book, you know, and again, speaking from experience, that was sort of intimidating to me. It was like, oh, if you tell
yeah,
me you're writing a book, then you have to write a book. And it's like, I don't know if I can do this. But sitting down, and what got me over the hump with this one is just sitting down and doing pulling together things that I had already, adding to them, reworking them, and that felt doable. So it sounds bad to say, but I kind of lowered the bar for myself,
Yes. Yes.
and then I was
That's
able to reach
key.
it. And then once you reach the low bar, then you're like, oh, I did that. Let me see if I can do the next thing, and you end up raising the bar from
Yes.
there. So it's just a matter of starting, really.
Yes, it
Yeah,
is. It is. How will you ever hear well done if you're too afraid to start?
exactly, exactly. So I don't want to say goodbye to you yet, but I want to go
Okay.
to our scripture, and then
Okay.
I'm gonna come back because we're almost out of time. But that's a perfect segue. So I'm just gonna go now to the
Okay.
scripture, which comes from Matthew 25:14 through 19. Then he who had received the 5 talents went and traded with them and made another 5 talents. And likewise, he who had received 2 gained 2 more also. But he who had received 1 went and dug in the ground and hid his Lord's money. After a long time, the Lord of those servants came and settled accounts with them. So, what does that say to you all out there who have been called to do something, who maybe have a dream in your heart, whether it's to write a book or to start a business or to who knows what, maybe something that we haven't even seen or heard of before. But the question is, are you going to sit with that fear and intimidation? Or are you going to write the vision and then walk it out? Because there were 3 servants who were given talents, and only 2 of the 3 did something with it. But something that Toya just said a moment ago is that life is short. And at some point, the Lord of those servants will come to settle accounts. And the question is, are you going to be the servant with the 5 talents or the 2 talents or the 1 that buried it? Because some of us think, oh, well, all I have is this one thing, the other people have more. But it's not that the servant only had 1. It's what he did with that 1. Um, yeah. I feel like
That's
we
so
all need to
good.
just kind of meditate on that for a minute and take stock. Here we are at the beginning of the year. Who are we going to be? Who are you going to be when the Lord comes to settle accounts? And let that motivate you to just start something today. Pregnant pause.
I love it. I love it. It's so good. Can I share something really quick?
Yes.
Okay. So, my unhealthy form of procrastination is having something that's juicy and saying, oh, this is for my book, and tucking it away and it never breathing outside of my hard drive. And so lately, I have thought of this scripture and what it has shown me in terms of my motivation to stop holding back, because it happens to writers, guys. We all do this, right? It's kind of
Mhm.
like having a cute outfit and saying, hey, I'm going to wait until the 4th of July to wear that. Then the 4th of July comes and it's out of style because you just keep
Right.
putting this off, right?
Yeah.
So there's a scripture that says, to he who has, more will be given and he will have
Yeah.
an abundance. But to he who does not have, even what he has will be taken away. And that's how we have to see our words. If you
Mhm.
have words and you share them with the world, more words will flow. But
Mhm.
if you take what you have and you hide it, you'll be watching TV and the verbatim, your
Mhm.
words will come up on the screen because obviously God wanted that birth in the earth for such a time as this. And you missed your window because you tucked it away and said, I'll save it for later.
Mercy. That is so true. That is so true. It has happened to me. And I'm like, oh man, I have that written somewhere. And they just said it. But I will say this, I'm going to add this to what you just said. When that happens, don't say, oh, well, I'm not going to bother then. Because you still will have an audience that individual or those people that you saw write it or publish it don't have,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
you still have the opportunity to do it, even if you think it's already been done, because
Yes.
there may be someone that will only hear it from you.
That's so good. And that's so important for us to keep in mind, because otherwise we will Jedi mind trick ourselves out of ever showing up in the world.
Yep.
So that's sound advice right there, y'all. Show up
Yep.
anyway. Like, there's enough
Yep.
room in the creative space for all of our voices to go forth. And like she
Yep.
said, what resonates with your people, you have people that I'll never even get the opportunity to speak to. So I would
Mm-hmm.
much rather them have that insight, that understanding, that revelation, that wisdom to be spoken into their lives than to just be alone. And
Yeah.
so there we go back to the removal of aloneness. That's what our words give us the power to do.
Yep.
And just as believers, we get to find ourselves in God's word over and over. I learned Psalm 23 when I was in second grade, and it is no less impactful because I've
Mm-hmm.
recited it countless times throughout my life. So just know
Yeah.
that we could be reconfirming something that the Lord spoke to somebody by being yet another voice to reiterate a message that he's been trying to communicate. So we are
Yeah.
living epistles. People get to look at our lives and read what God is doing in and through us so that they can likewise show up in the world and be the conduit for creativity that he's called them to be.
Awesome. Very well said. Well, we are out of time. It always flies by. Time flies when you're having fun. So I'm thrilled that you were able to come and share with us so many pearls of wisdom. And I want all of you who are watching to share today's live. It will be on this page. It will live on this page even after we close out today. So be sure to go back and share it with those who need to hear what we've talked about today, and watch this again yourself to remind you to do the thing that you've been called to do. This is your year. This is your year. So get it done. And then also make sure that you follow Toya Poplar if you're not already. Check out her resources, her website. She's on Instagram and Facebook. And I would love for you to come back, Toya, to talk a little bit more about the Enneagram stuff and the personality things. I think that's always very interesting to me, and I would love to dig into that a little more. We couldn't get into it too much today, but I think that's so cool that you coach in that. I'm a little bit familiar. There's so many of those personality tests out there. I'm a little familiar with the Enneagram, but I hear a lot of people talking about it. So I'll have to just have you back so you can talk a little bit, maybe just about that.
And this is
um,
gospel centered too. That's why I love this, like
yeah.
this approach to Enneagram. So I
Yeah.
would be honored. That's my jam. I would love that.
Okay, cool. Well,
Yeah.
we will definitely do that. Definitely schedule that. And thank you again for being here and sharing with us. So we will stay in touch. We're gonna stay connected. And like I said, thank you to all of you who joined us today. Um, be sure to check out the resources that we have here on the page. And guys, we're gonna keep this conversation going for the rest of the month. We're writing the vision, and I'm thrilled with the guests that we have lined up for this month. They are going to continue to inspire you. Next week, Kat Lee will be here. She is the author of Hello Mornings, and she's going to talk about how we can start each day on the best foot possible. We can wake up for our day, not to our day. Very important. So you want to be sure to join us next week to meet Kat. And the following week, we have Elaine Kennedy, who is going to talk about her organization and her program about helping us, all of us, to make our vision clear. And then, of course, at the end of the month, my good friends Paul and Claire will be here to talk about their new book. Jesus is a person. I hope I said that right. They're going to tell us all about it. I'm so excited. They're also writers and creatives, and they teach writing. So we'll have a lot to talk about there. And as I said, this month is going to be all about inspiring us to do whatever it is we've been called to do and to no longer be held back by fear. So I wish that for you this week. Check out the YouTube channels that I shared. Do some yoga and some breathing to get in a good headspace. And I'll see you next time.
Happy New Year! Are you ready to write the vision? Be sure to join me all month as my guests, Toya Poplar, Kat Lee, Elaine Kennedy, Claire and Paul Nixon show us how to start the year with clear purpose and vision. Join us Saturdays at 5 on Facebook Live.